This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight, a senior Anglican clergyman says the country is narrow-minded when it comes to the topic of gender equality. Plus, could we see more staff reductions at government entities? And the former opposition leader criticizes the Prime Minister on the VAT hike.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Topping the news, Anglican Archdeacon James Palacios is labeling the country as narrow-minded when it comes to gender equality. Palacios, who has been vocal about his support of the gender equality, says for far too long the issue has been about gay rights and same-sex marriage, as he insisted the government should forge ahead with policy changes to ensure equality for all. Our Jasmine Brown has that report.
For the lack of a better word, we just living in a country that is very narrow-minded when it comes on to the issue of gender equality, especially since it became clouded or muddied or thrown in with the whole issue of gay rights, same-sex marriage and stuff, and people are so afraid of that they saw that as a move in that direction.
Last November, the Minutes administration announced its plans to change the law on citizenship rights through amendments to the Bahamas Nationality Act. Weeks after the announcement, Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernanda accused the Minutes administration of taking draconian actions. Fernanda also said he sees this move as going against the results of a 2016 referendum that dealt with the same citizenship issues. Palacios says the fact of the matter is Bahamians are wary of referenda, and he does not blame the government for taking decisive actions.
People wary of referendums, quite frankly. They just wary of it and going to the polls and as if to say, which part of this don't you understand?
While making the announcement last November, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis said the government will amend the law to ensure that all children born outside the Bahamas to Bahamian women automatically receive citizenship. The government also intends to amend the law and allow children born to unmarried Bahamian men and foreign women an automatic right to Bahamian citizenship.
Yeah, there is already criticism. As I said, some church leaders have said, didn't we deal with this before? Well, the government got to do what it thinks it has to do. Now, if there's a consequence for it, then you pay the consequence. But at least you're doing what you believe you ought to do.
As for when those policy changes and amendments are expected to come on stream, Attorney General Carl Bethel told our news team in April that he could not predict that. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks a lot, Jasmine. Well, with Bahamas Power and Light shelling out up to $70 million for voluntary separation packages, and the Water and Sewage Corporation announcing its plans to shed its staff count by 100, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest said he's unsure whether there will be more staff reductions in government corporations in the near future.
Well, I can't forecast that at this stage. What we have said to all of the state-owned enterprises that we need them to become as efficient as possible, whether that is through cost reduction or a combination of cost reductions and revenue enhancements.
Some 314 employees took the packages offered by Bahamas Power and Light, and the Water and Sewage Corporation expects up to 100 employees to leave with packages.
I am pleased to see that they're taking that seriously and they're making moves towards ensuring that we have efficient state-owned enterprises to the extent that there are still state-owned enterprises and need to be that they're being very aggressive about trying to rationalize the cost and reduce the burden that these entities pose to the public treasury.
At the end of the day, the finance minister said he is satisfied government is able to address the issue of public sector oversizing in a voluntary manner.
And so we'll see as we go forward and other entities develop their midterm strategy in alliance with the government and what we're trying to achieve from a central government point of view, we'll see what happens. But again, I am happy that we're able to do this in a way that is voluntary, that is cooperative with all the unions and all the stakeholders, so that at the end of the day, everybody feels that they've been treated fairly, and they have other opportunities as a result of whatever action or decision that they may have taken.
Well, the recent hike in value-added tax and the Prime Minister's recent attempt to justify why his administration made the decision to impose the hike is not sitting well with former opposition leader Loretta Butler Turner. Here's Giorgio Bain with that story.
The former Long Island MP says while she is avoiding political topics, she can't help but notice the complete flip-flop the government did when it came to the swift VAT increase. Butler Turner warned the Free National Movement to remember the promises it made to the Bahamian people on the campaign trail. She says the hike in value-added tax from 7.5% to 12% is a direct opposition to the platform that the Free National Movement was elected on. According to Butler Turner, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis has a habit of flip-flopping on issues that affect the public.
The manner in which the increase in VAT was foisted upon the Bahamian people is in direct opposition to the platform that the FNM was elected on. And if you were to look historically at the arguments of the Free National Movement under Hubert Alexander Minnis, he vehemently opposed VAT in the first instance, and in the second instance said that he would do away with much of that. So you see the confliction, if you will, with this Prime Minister, who sort of has an habitual disposition to flip-flopping on national issues that affect the public.
Butler Turner said she found the reference to recent civil unrest in Haiti as a justification for the Minnis administration's increase in VAT egregious. She added that she was saddened by Minnis's budget tour, which she labeled as a one-sided discussion.
Well, I think that about 3 weeks ago when the Prime Minister began his tour, we didn't have that uprising in Haiti, and that was not his justification at that point. And what was even more egregious is the fact that on this tour, there was nothing about listening from the Prime Minister. It was a very one-sided discussion where he took no questions. That's troubling for a country and a party that has always been heralding the fact of transparency and accountability.
According to Butler Turner, the VAT hike and other issues have eroded the public's confidence in this administration.
I see the whole VAT discussion having eroded a lot of the currency and the confidence that was reposed in this administration.
She commended the way the previous administration handled the implementation of VAT and warned the government to remember its promise of transparency and accountability.
But the government of the day did in fact hold a lot of discussions, engaged the business community tremendously, brought in persons, experts from other countries who had also gone through the process. And while Bahamians were not happy with it, at least they understood the process. And, we were even able to get them to back down from their original 10%, which they were originally, I think, pegging it at, or 15%, whatever it was. So when you lead a country, you've got to be very open with your people.
Reporting for our News Weekend Edition, I'm Giorgio Bain.
The government has set aside $25 million in direct financing for small and medium-sized enterprises in an effort to create a vibrant small business sector. The Deputy Prime Minister said they are putting together a board to oversee the dissemination of funds.
We're really focused on new developments, so we're not really necessarily looking for the retail shops and that kind of thing, although we'll obviously do what we can to spur that kind of development also. But what we want to look for is real innovation, trying to encourage young people to think outside the box, to see how we can diversify this economy and take advantage of all the natural resources that we have. because contrary to popular belief, we do have natural resources and we do have product that we can refine for export for value.
The money will be disbursed over a 5-year period in increments of $5 million annually. This is in keeping with the promise the Minnis administration made last year. And we will take our first break here, but still ahead tonight, the Transport Minister gives an update on that investigation into the Exuma voting tragedy, and the director of a drug rehabilitation center says cases of gambling addiction are on the rise. Those stories and more coming up when our news returns.